All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mac Clemens, and I'm joined by Maria Lara. And today we are putting the polish on website and document compliance for Colorado. As you know, in a matter of weeks, all of these rules and laws and new fines potentially all come into effect. And so we wanted to make sure that as a special district, you are feeling ready and up to speed with the latest and greatest. So for today, we're going to talk about a couple of things. First, we're going to review the 10 steps to achieve and maintain compliance. If you've been on one of these webinars before, you're going to see a lot of good review, some content. We're going to go through that checklist again, update just a few items with small changes, but for the most part, we're going to review that, make sure you feel really comfortable and bulletproof, give you an opportunity to ask questions. Then we're going to go into some new technology preview. Documents. Everybody has brought up what to do about documents, and we're excited to show you some very cutting edge technology, and we'll be talking about that today, give you a sneak peek if you're interested. And also, we're going to just review any other special notes for your districts in Colorado before we get started. All right, we've got a question from Debbie, maybe. I think you might have raised your hand, Debbie. And we'll be happy to have you ask questions in chat or in Q&A. And fortunately, I've got Annalise and Alex, who's joining Maria and myself, that'll be helping us field questions as they come up. So Annalise and Alex, just feel free to jump in whenever those come through. And with that, we will get started. All right. Okay. Sounded like maybe there was an echo for a moment, and then we'll get going. All right. Now, of course, before we get started, it is so important to give a special shout out to SDA Colorado. They have been part of this entire movement, all the way from inviting Representative Ortiz to the History Colorado Center there in Denver, to create forums for members to come together and learn about, all of these laws as they came into effect, and even to recognize districts that have been leading the way. By being here today, you are special. You are, one of the districts that cares, that is trying to do the right thing, whether it's for the carrot, the joy of making sure that everybody in your community can access your content, or whether it's the stick, the fear of enforcement. All very valid reasons to be here. We want to make sure all of these questions get answered today. And we're so grateful to Ann Terry, Michael, and the entire team at SDA Colorado for making districts stronger together and providing the resources to make all of this workable. Because I'll tell you what, many states have faced these kinds of laws, but nobody has done as well as Colorado in terms of getting ahead of it. And special districts, which are the most local and often under-resourced form of government, are doing a fantastic job paving the way and setting the stage. So zooming out for a second, and all of these Colorado laws and rules. Maria, dive in. Maria's our expert here, and the many, many laws. You got quite a few in Colorado, I gotta say.
I've been on a journey for quite a few years together with this. So as you all know, there's been a few laws starting off with 211110, really kicking it off, making sure that all local government websites are accessible, giving the date of July 1 of 2024 being the date. Now, just to reiterate, that date still sticks. All of the content that was created after July 1 of 2024 doesn't have to be accessible, but kind of throughout that, the state has been very, ears open to hearing feedback, which has been awesome, where we've seen, Senate Bill 244, 1454 pop up as well, giving a cleanup bill, really, cleaning up what exactly needs to be made accessible, and then also providing that time where you had a year extension, which is coming up this July 1 of 2025, making sure that all of the content from July 1 of 2024 and beyond is fully accessible. Now, within that, I think a few of you have been on the calls with the OIT. There have been different rulemakings, just kind of refining here and there what it means to be accessible. And those final rules will go into play at the end of this month. So if there's anything major, we'll let you know, but it seems pretty reasonable now of what needs to be accessible. Nothing big on our end to change. Now, 1454, those key takeaways were just making sure that you had the progress date report made on a quarterly basis. And that was just to make sure nobody's, taking advantage of that year extension, making sure that you were making the efforts to make everything accessible along the way. So no big changes there.
Yeah, fortunately, yeah, lots of refining, as Maria said, and we do have our other experts here. We've got Melissa Oakes from Spencer Fain. She manages over 100 websites, she and her team there. And Melissa, please feel free, raise your hand, chime in. We'll promote you to panelists too if you've got any specifics that we should add for us there. What we do have, and we'll reference this, we updated it. We update it all the time. We updated it again today. No major changes, but we always have the 10 steps checklist. This is published in partnership with SDA Colorado for all the things that you need to take on. And for those of you, we do see some new faces here. Some of you are tuning in for the first time. We're going to go through these quickly and just review all of these steps just to make sure they're crystal clear and give you the opportunity to ask questions, beginning with the one-time actions. Maria, take it away.
So the first one is pretty simple here, designating an accessibility contact, aka, it could be the person here on this call right now, the person that anyone can go to that does have a request for any sort of, issue with accessibility, making sure that there is someone they can reach out to. Think about it, with your core requests, your public record requests, making sure you have somebody that can access the website and respond to these requests quickly.
The second is that a website accessibility statement. So you have seen this before, probably, and I've seen this now almost on all websites in the state of Colorado. Just want to make sure you've got that website accessibility statement there on your site. So we've got that one for you that you can just copy and paste. We update it every year as standards change, but this one will work, and OIT has seen it and okayed it as well.
Now, the third one is putting a page or some location where you talk about all of this. This can be on your accessibility policy or your statement itself, but just making sure that you have all of your protocols there, your accessibility contact located, as well as means for people to reach out if they do have an issue with something on your website.
And just like you would for public record requests, you absolutely want to have a process in place for requests for accommodation. So anytime that somebody comes to the site, it's really interesting. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is the law that's sort of foundational to HB 211110 and the subsequent laws and rules, is that people need to be able to get some help. And so no website out there is perfect. I mean, I remember when the law passed, the bill itself was a completely inaccessible PDF and an inaccessible website. Ironically, that was just the state of things. And so what's really important is that you have a formal process in your organization. So if somebody has disability-related need or accommodation, that they can reach out and get support. And you want to make sure timeline is included. People often ask, what is the right timeline that needs to be included? And that isn't specified, but we've seen people put 1 to 2 business days as a standard.
The next one here are for your videos. So if you're including recordings of your board meetings or you have any other, informational videos on your website, make sure that you enable closed captions just to make sure if anyone can't hear what's in the video, they're able to read a transcript or read the captions of what's going on. Fortunately, if you upload your videos to YouTube, they have free closed captioning, so you can just turn it on. It uses a little bit of AI to actually, transcribe everything that's being said in the meeting. So you can go in there. If you need to make little changes, you can. You publish it for free. It just takes a few minutes. Here's an example here. You just hop onto your YouTube studio. It's free within your YouTube account. You go to your subtitles over here, you click on your video, you enable those closed captions, and then boom, it's automatically added. So super easy there, and it's free. All right.
Right. Now, how many of you have used Check My District or some other type of tool for scanning your website, by show of hands or by dropping into chat? All right, so we have at least, oh, I'm sure more of you than that, but yeah, we have about 20 hands raised. Okay, awesome. Yeah, it's a great practice and it's a great paper trail. So the nice thing about the Check My District reports is that they'll come into your inbox every month, and Check My District is free. But what's really great about it is it's telling you like if there are any issues on the HTML of your website. And what's really cool is that coming in June, so next month, Check My District is now going to include document scanning as well. So it will give you information on your PDFs. So if there are any problems that arise there, you'll be able to see that. That is using Vera PDF under the hood, which tests to the WCAG 2.1 AA standards, which are the required levels for PDF. And if you haven't used it before, maybe some of you have never checked this out, it's at checkmydistrict.org. This is built with the cooperation of associations of special districts and their supporters across the country that were kind of tired of vendors going after special districts and trying to sell them scanning tools, saying, hey, you've got a problem, you better go test, but then not sharing with them what the actual problems were. So this uses Lighthouse under the hood, but it helps check each and every page and then keep a record. And so when you type that in, it prepares the report. And then you get not only like a chronology of the different scans over time, but it'll help you break it down and see like what the issues are. It's nice because you can share that report with your web developer and say, hey, just like you would build a wheelchair ramp on a building, you should absolutely make sure that our website meets professional standards and be able to address that. And so it'll go through that, track your progress over time, and so forth. The issues that we see pop up the most are missing alt text on images. So an alt text, again, on an image, it's something that you would put in if you're on Drupal, like you see here. If you're on, like this is another Drupal version, sorry, this is WordPress, Drupal, or Streamline in there. You need to make sure that you're describing the image so that somebody who can't see understands what they might be missing. Yeah, Beth is asking a question. Can we use Check My District for non-streamlined websites? Yeah, absolutely. Check My District works on any website. In fact, we have random people going there. I think there's like a dental office that tried to use it, and sure enough, it will scan it. It'll test any website. It's not non-streamline dependent for sure. And there's another question too. Melissa had a point. There is another bill, HB 1152. We'll talk about that shortly on liability for tech accessibility contractors, similar to a law that came in, was presented in California. So here's the deal with images and stuff. Man, it's so great to have informational graphics. Really helps your community understand what you're doing, helps you tell your story. You want to make sure that if you're not like stuff like this, we don't want to discourage you from doing that. Just make sure that you have it in an alternate format. So if somebody can't see, they can still get the content. And for example, these 8 tips that make sure they're also listed out in paragraph form. The second biggest offender is color contrast, and it's tough. This one sneaks up. We even deal with it all the time. One of our favorite tools is the WebAIM color contrast checker. This just makes sure that when you are selecting your text color, you make sure there is enough contrast. And the biggest thing is that people will have maybe maybe they have a green or a blue from their logo. They're using it in their headings. You may just need to darken it a touch just to make sure it has enough color contrast to meet the guidelines. So basically, you just want to make sure you've got a process in place and where you're checking, at least on a monthly basis, and keep copies of those results. And whether it's Check My District or if you are in Streamline, it's got a built-in scanner that does that for you. You make sure that you are squared away.
All right, the next one here is a big one. And this has one of the bigger updates. If you have been to our presentations in the past, it's looking at your attachments. So these would be all of your board agendas, all of your minutes, your board packets, call for nominations, all of those sort of documents. You do want to make sure that you are scanning those usually separately. Check My District, and in about June, we will have that ability, like Mac mentioned, to scan through your documents. But currently, you have to use another system to do so. You can use PAC 2024. It is a free program. Adobe Acrobat Pro, Common Look also are free programs that you can use. You'll have to pull those PDFs, download that PDF or grab it from your website or your computer and upload it to these programs and do a separate scan there. So it is an extra step that you will want to check out. So what we recommend for this, I know a lot of people, have been a little bit overwhelmed because you probably do have a lot of documents on your website, maybe some dating back to the early 2000s, for example. So really what's helped folks that we've worked with is developing a process for these non-compliant documents. If you do have thousands of documents or even just 50 and you're not sure where to start, making sure you're looking at what's required, what's most popular, and tackling those first, especially with your deadline coming up, making sure all of the documents that were created and posted after July 1 of 2024 are accessible, and then you can work your way backwards into those other remaining documents there. So we'll start here with a little quick overview of how to do that with your documents here. I know a lot of folks use Microsoft Word to create their documents, so you actually want to start with the source. So moving forward, like all of your agendas and any of those other documents, you'll actually start with making them accessible through Microsoft. They do have accessible Office templates that you can use. Once you do create your document here, you can actually use the Microsoft tool to check its accessibility. And then at that point, it'll walk you through all of those WCAG standards. Now, just one note, this is only walking it through those steps for a Microsoft Word document. A Microsoft Word document is not a PDF. So we're going to move on to the second step here, where you do create it into an accessible document using Adobe Acrobat Pro. So as you all know, you click File, save it as a PDF. There is a version where it will do the best it can to save it for accessibility. So make sure to click that, and then you'll have your PDF document. We move on to step 2 here, where we upload it to Adobe Acrobat or any system that you use like Common Look to make it accessible. And you're going to run the PDF version now through its accessibility tools. So it may look a little bit different depending on what version you have, but basically go through, make sure you have Adobe Acrobat Pro, run a full check of accessibility. And at that point, it'll run it through the PDF's WCAG standards here. It'll catch all your headers, color contrast, and help you fix it right there within Adobe, which is pretty great. So make sure you are following those 2 steps before you actually run that final version through a checker. That's where you can make all of the edits.
And that's the tricky part, is that like there are these little gotchas that come up where, you know, they have these accessibility checkers, but the most frustrating part is they don't exactly meet the WCAG standard. So it's nice to have, you get 90% of it, but it's those little extra errors here and there, the DC title on the document, or these other little fields that have to get filled in. And, those don't always make a lot of sense. We actually have on today Melissa Oakes. She's added as a panelist. And Melissa, like, you've gone through this and had to remediate, countless documents. Sort of like, what are you finding? Like, your organization has actually gone through the process of getting the software and sort of filling this in as needed. How are you sort of, like, what kind of stuff comes up, and what are you doing? Like, how often do you like find problems with the documents?
Yeah, thanks, Mac, for including me. Apologies, my camera is not working today, so you just have to look at my name. I think for the most part, when we are scanning these and in Adobe PDF, the title comes up a lot of times, obviously. And we see a lot of, if you have things in, like as the example on the screen right now, you have A, B, and C, and under C you have sub-items A, B, and C. A lot of times those will get out of whack if you don't create your template or your document in the right order. Your tags will get kind of out of order, which sometimes is easy to fix, and sometimes it gets a little confusing on how to fix those. So mainly titles, and then the tagging, especially when it comes to headers or things in a list form.
Awesome. Yeah. And, I think Laura just brought this up. How would you recommend archiving documents? Like, what about archiving? And so we have this nice little slide from a former presentation called A Guided Journey Out of PDF Hell, which was trying to center on this issue, that keeps coming up. And there you do, under HB 211110's revisions and the rules, and also under federal law, the new DOJ requirements, you have the ability to not have to remediate documents if they fall under this archived provision. And so what's really nice is basically archived has like 4 primary qualifiers, and they're linked from here. We'll send out these slides. But the big one is that it's something that's old that isn't changing. And so if you've got stuff from before that deadline, like your old strategic plan, I think was one of the examples that was brought up. Yeah, you do not need to fix those. You don't need to remediate them, but you do need to designate them as archived content and put them in that archived section of your site. If you're on Streamline, there's a button to do that. You can mark things as archived. And that's great because then you can focus on the newer content. So if you have something like this year's budget, or if it's a state required document, then those are things that we absolutely recommend you go ahead and remediate. So now one of the big things that's come up is people basically fall into three categories. One is that they are in denial on the PDF issue, and they're like, yeah, we need to do something about that, but they don't feel like there's really any good options. And quite frankly, I don't blame them. There's also the ones that are taking it on and they're doing it themselves. So they've got a big cup of coffee. They've watched Sean Jordison's videos, from the accessibility guy on how to make a document go all the way through and pass. And they've created their own templates and they've kind of got the hang of it. And they're getting documents uploaded, but they've taken an hour or so out of their day to do that. And then there are people that are just like, you know what? Maybe they've got a budget or something that came in from a third party. Maybe there's audits, maybe there's other things. And then with those, they just end up sending those off. So like Melissa, like at your firm, across your sites, like what percentage of things are you doing yourself? And how long is that taking that versus what are you doing for your documents? What percentage do you send off to get remediated?
Yeah, thanks, Mac. So for some of the items that we create in-house, so we recently did elections, so like our call for nominations or our election results or a meeting agenda. Those things we've actually created accessible templates that we use within the firm. Those third-party documents that you mentioned, the budgets or the audits, or a service plan or things of that nature, when they are required to be posted on the website by 262, Senate Bill 262, those documents we do send off for professional remediation because there is just no way that we have the technical ability or the staff to try and remediate those on our own.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really a hassle. And even the $7 a page, it seemed great, but then I had this problem come up with a district in California that was actually getting sued over ADA compliance from a community member whose husband is blind. And, they are those community members that find fault in the government's operating, former board member, et cetera, long story there. And they basically were like, this agenda is not accessible. Well, it was an agenda packet that was 111 pages. So because we have to defend them, we indemnify the districts for ADA claims as their provider. So we're like, well, they go to post their agenda right on the deadline. And then she said, well, if I don't have a chance to review this, you can't take action on it. And you need to provide this 111-page document, which was a doozy. If you don't provide this to us, it's going to be, there's going to be hell to pay, basically, is what she said. And so we had to rush this document. I called in a favor from Sean Jordison, the accessibility guy. I was like, can you turn this around in 24 hours? And so ended up paying $9 a page rush fee. It's cost $1,000 for this 111-page agenda, $999. And we get it back to them. But it's just good grief. And this is a tiny district that has no budget. And that it was that kind of pushed us over the edge. And that's why we're going to be talking about some new technologies. And that's at the end of this. We are involved in the creation of that, as is Sean, as is everybody else, because we all think there just needs to be a better way for districts to deal with this. So we're going to be talking about that as well. So anyway, this is sort of what to do with documents is the big thing. And Jordan, you just chimed in. Jordan Witteven says, I check and save for accessibility and Word, recheck an Adobe Acrobat Pro, make any fixes needed, and then upload to Streamline, and then I get new errors reported from that. How do I resolve that? So we're going to talk about that and how that all gets squared away. And we'll even talk about, how do you see which pages are most frequently visited on your website? Google Analytics is a good way. Your content management system, whether you're in WordPress, Drupal, or Streamline, all have hit counters kind of built into them as well, so you can get high-level statistics that way too. Okay, so we'll talk about new things. The key is don't boil the ocean, make a plan, work through your documents. That one file, that one archive document that's 500 pages that 2 people have accessed in the last 3 years is not a good use of public funds to remediate. That's a great candidate for the archive. So you want to archive those documents, but your current year's budget is a great thing to make sure is totally compliant. And so, yes, and so some of you have seen, you can just go buy that remediation. About half of you on the call today are Streamline folks, about 100 of you, and about 100 of you are not. But this is sort of built in there. But again, we're going to show you what I think is even some better options for that going forward, leveraging new technologies. So then when you do, like whether it's your Check My District report with website issues or your document report, then it comes time to perform remediations, which Maria will talk us through.
All right. So the first thing about the remediations, I know there is a bill that's floating around in Colorado right now. I think it's 1152, talking about the contractors and the liabilities and indemnification, which is great. I believe that bill is, looking to the contractors, requiring them to follow the digital accessibility standards set by OIT. So fingers crossed if that, does come into play, that would be hugely advantageous for all of our districts here. So we're going to keep an eye out for that. I know metro districts also have another bill. We'll talk about that in another webinar to see if that does pass, looking for more accountability and accessibility and just more information on their websites about what they're doing here. So we'll have that during our next legislative update. But as far as pushing for your vendors to be accessible and to remediate, we really do recommend that, making sure that you're not responsible for all of that third-party content there. We do recommend putting in the RFP language that, what your standards are, the WCAG 2.1 AA standards. If this new bill does pass, they'll have to follow with that regardless. It's whatever the OIT, what they recommend and what they require under their rules. So fingers crossed that that does pass. But regardless, I think it is really, important to make sure it's in all of your RFPs and any proposals that you do put out there. So the other thing you want to think about for any of the remediations is your non-standard content. We get a lot of questions about this. All of your embedded maps, your budget diagrams with your bar graphs that have another line going through it, all of the signatures, all of those scanned PDFs from really historical documents that you can barely read, looking at it, right here on your computer. So a lot of the times you want to think about, remediating those documents. Do you want to put context into your alternative text? For example, for a map, do you want to give a general description of what your district boundaries are, explaining what the streets are? And also you can also write, a paragraph underneath describing what that is doing. Or you can provide like a visual interpreter is something new that we've come across. If there's you're unable to like physically and write down describing what that is, you might want to think about a third-party service that has somebody come on that can actually read it out to them or describe it to them. So we'll tease a little bit into that later in this presentation, but there are different ways to provide that information in a different sort of format. You just want to be creative with it.
Now, another thing that's really a gold standard is, and especially if you're a larger district, is considering that third-party audit and the third-party test. Like, just like if you ask who audits your books, it's probably not your controller or bookkeeper, it's a third-party firm that's trusted. And so you want to make sure that if you have created a website in-house, that you have come up with a way to test this through a third party. If you're using software that is already being audited annually, you can ask for a copy of that last report. If there's reporting built in, even better. You can also ask for a VPAT, which is a voluntary kind of accessibility template report that can be delivered. And especially if like manual testing was performed, I knew that's something we do. We invest about $30,000 every year, having a wide range of folks with different disabilities. We partner with Level Access. They'll audit the platform, but then we can pass that report along to all the folks in Colorado that use Streamline and elsewhere. So that's really important. And if you do some manual testing or you've done some third-party testing, that's absolutely something you can include either on your public website accessibility statement or in your internal website accessibility plan.
All right, so for the last one here, we have platform insurance. So you want to think about, first of all, what platform are you using? What assurances do they make? So take a look into the policy on what platform you're hosting your website with a lot of your technology that, applies to these laws, and see if they do provide indemnification for it. If not, you might want to look over to insurance options. Often ADA is not covered under insurance for cyber, all these other options there that you probably already have. So you want to look into third-party insurance that are specific to it, such as, Pro Riders. AAA Track does provide insurance as well. I believe, Mac, that was about what, 300 last time we checked, about a month is what we've seen with some of these services. So it is pricey. So that is kind of the last option you do want to look into if you do have a big district.
Yeah, absolutely. And we offer that as well, like that. We just think that's good governance. We believe like no district has ever had to pay, should ever have to pay $1 for that. Because our fear, we got into all of this not for accessibility, although we always loved that. We actually got it in to what we do today just to help special districts tell their story. And our biggest fear is that all these accessibility laws are going to keep you from telling your story and letting your community know all the good work that you're up to. So anyway, that's our why behind all of this. And when we did Accessibility Day in Colorado last year, that was a big theme, is the importance of telling your story and making sure that you can share the good works to every member of your community. Ooh, we are full and brimming with questions. We did mention some bills, and I just want to point out SDA has in their next legislative update, they're going to be covering all of these bills in depth with their legislative team. So we tune into that as well to learn the latest and greatest. Ann Terry's on with us today, which is awesome. And so her team will be doing that. I'd love to turn it now to questions and to make sure that we answer some of the ones that are coming through. I will put up my contact information and Maria's. We will, of course, also have, the slide deck and everything out there, the Colorado checklist, and our contact information. After we answer your questions, we're then going to shift into some new technology previews to look at new ways to address documents. If you're not interested in that, you can, of course, hop off because you will now have the essential information between this and the checklist to kind of get going. But if you want to see a kind of sneak peek of some things that might reduce the pain around documents, please stay tuned. For now, let's jump in. Laura, you have a question. For third-party documents, such as the annual audit report for remediation, is this something we should push the organization conducting the audit to remedy? Laura, ideally, yes, you would just ask people to do it. Here's what we've noticed. You ask people to do that and they're like, they have no idea. You can send them the vendor letter that's like, do it or else. And then they threaten to charge a lot of money. It's only $7 a page. So when they say your 5-page budget's going to cost $500 to prepare it in this way, I don't know. We find that districts that just kind of have a plan to figure it out themselves have better luck than putting the vendors on notice. But we think it is good that you share with the vendors that is an expectation and a requirement. And so, if you've got to pay $7 a page to fix it or something, you might be able to tag them with it so they don't have to worry about that. But yeah, in theory, Laura, you should. In practice, you'll want to have your own plan just in case. Robert is asking, does the pool insurance cover this? We do not believe that any of the pools for statewide funds are covering ADA specifically. They cover EPLI. If the bathroom sink was the wrong height, employment practices liability insurance would take care of it. Cyber insurance is a different thing, so that is not covered. It's not considered cyber. It's this weird in-between thing. And so, yes, you can have your your kind of drive-by lawsuits, which are the biggest sort of thing that districts get hit with. And those are not publicly reported. You can have your Title II claims under the ADA, which end up in federal court. You can have your OCR letters or your DOJ enforcement actions, which come from on a high from the federal government. Haven't seen a lot of that in Colorado. There's different things that pop up. And you could even have the $3,500 statutory fines. We've not seen anything happen on that, but the waiting period, the 12-month grace period is over July 1st. So there can be state level fines as well. Like California is $4,000 a day. We've, had to eat those costs and deal with those too for districts. So they come up, but on average, I think it's only about 7% of districts, according to the NSDA white paper on this, that have actually been hit with a sort of action. So it's not high, but it's not zero either. You definitely want to be on top of it.
No, Robert, you had a follow-up question. If we're using Streamline, is this insurance included? It is. It's part of the indemnification. So just check with your plan. You can contact us well to see how much.
Mm-hmm. Yes. No customer has ever had to pay $1 like for an ADA thing. We help you stay responsible for that. Okay, so now an anonymous attendee asked a great question. What is the legal risk of any PDF documents linked to a Google Drive, but not on the website itself. Yes, if you link other places, does that get rid of it? Well, it's unfortunately a bit of a gray area, but if Stuart were here, our ADA attorney, he would say, you want to make sure that if it's an official district document, just sticking it on another domain, like putting it in a Dropbox or a Google Drive, does not absolve you from the responsibility to make it compliant. We've even seen cases where people are linking to a state document or something else, but they inherit some responsibility for that as well, which seems crazy because it's on another domain. But basically anything that you're presenting, you want to make sure is accessible. So tricky, I know, not the greatest answer that I would love to give you, but yes, it's important that any essential document about your organization is made to be accessible. Okay, great. So we have somebody ask a Streamline specific question. I'll loop back on that one. Ventaka auto generates the late fee XN when there is a balance. Huh. I'm not sure what that's referring to. Okay, Heidi, if we use a file search option like a community portal to district documents, are those documents subject to the ADA? So this is interesting. Yeah, if you have like an internal website, so what Stuart said last time is that, yes, technically they are, but they're not really being enforced. So practically speaking, no, it's more like if you have an internal community portal and you have a community member with a known disability and they have shared that, then you need to create a plan for that. But if it's for 20 communities in your metro district and everyone's reading it just fine, there's no action required. Just like if you need to respond to things as they get brought up. All documents that are older than 7/2024 can be archived. Is it bad to do that? Can we just archive stuff and slowly work on ADA later? That's a great one. Maria, that is my understanding.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can, as long as they're marked as archived, you can do that. If you're on Streamline, you can mark them as archived and they still can view it. So that's your choice. I would, if you are working on it ADA later, just make sure that's kind of part of your reporting. So you're just proving what documents you're working on and how that progress is going as well.
Awesome. We have a question from Cindy, Celinda Mobley, who says, what about a board member who wants to post their recorded meetings and put them on the website? Haven't been able to have those remediated. Do we just ensure that closed captioning is on for the meetings? So yes, Celinda, that is what we recommend. If you upload it to YouTube, the closed captioning is generated automatically. We find that to be good enough, as long as it's clear and understandable. Like you'll want to watch, part of the meeting to make sure that it's doing an adequate job. If there's a lot of background noise or people are using a lot of specific language or acronyms that are not known to the closed captioning, then somebody might need to go through and tidy up the closed captions to make sure that they do a good enough job. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it just needs to be good enough so that somebody with a disability who couldn't hear would be able to get the gist of the meeting in a reasonable way. All right. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's good. I think we've got through most of those questions. And one more question about the Check My District. So does it currently scan PDF documents? Check My District, the checkmydistrict.org does not currently, but it will in June. So just sit tight a couple of weeks. That will be added as new functionality. And if you are on Streamline, yes, it currently checks your PDFs. And someone was asking about, what are the things that we need to, if we need to know what is required to be on our website for a Title 32 district, I believe it is, that is stuff that we can send you. We can connect you with SDA for that official list of required content.
Yeah, and mainly metro districts have a lot of requirements. For non-metropolitan districts, the biggest one is going to be your agenda 48 hours in advance. Depending if you're having elections, you can post notices and results there, but it's not a huge long list that you have to worry about.
Yeah, Robin Lorick, please clarify, if your special districts has a 501c3 and that organization's website is linked to yours, does the 501c3 have to comply? It technically does, but under ADA, under Title II, or under, I guess that would be Title III of the ADA, but not under HB 211110. I don't think that is, like, if you've got an ancillary organization that's like a booster fundraiser, it doesn't have to under this specific law, but it is a very good idea. You still have like federal liability from that. In fact, that's where we got dragged into a lawsuit against one of our districts the Harupa Mountain Rec and Park District, because they did the right thing. They absorbed the Harupa Mountain Discovery Center, which was a 501c3, like this awesome camp for kids that had a tough time during COVID. It's actually nonprofit of the year. And the poor thing got hit with a lawsuit for ADA right as they were folding the website into their district. And so their district got tangled up in it. And we offered to jump in and help. We put Stewart on it, got their fine cut in half, which was good. But man, like that was just, it was some ancillary website that got them dragged into it. So it, while it's not like technically outlined in this law, we think it's a good idea to at least perform regular scans on it, know where it's at. You could use Check My District for that site too, and get a general, sense of how it's doing and just address any issues that come up. And look, maybe it's just like one color contrast issue and maybe something in the footer that needs to be fixed. If you've like already messaged your developer, they're working on fixing it over the coming months, great. You're like, that's such a different situation than if you just have no idea. So again, it's not about perfection. It's about the general direction and slowly getting there.
Yeah, and I know a lot of the ancillary websites do collect donations and often can use it to like sell items, just to get some revenue in. And we've noticed a lot of like websites with like e-commerce get targeted. So that could be another angle to why like that Discovery Center, for example, was targeted, because they are selling things or collecting money. For some reason, they love to take a look at those sites and send some letters. So I have a more.
Lisa Lewis, if our HOA has a separate website that is that considered ancillary? Yeah, I think if you have like your community website or your portal, I think it's technically part of the district. So I think it falls under a district asset. But we can check on that, Lisa. If you want to email Maria or myself, we can actually just loop in our ADA attorney and they can answer very specifically and give you we are not attorneys, so we're not supposed to give legal advice in this context, but we're happy to get that for you. We've got them on retainer, so we're often helping districts answer those questions. All right, we've got some other good questions here. Okay, cool. Oh yeah, Crystal, do you have a plan to remediate archive documents prior to 7/24? Can you just archive them and never worry about them again ever? Yes, unless you're referencing them again in the future, you can put them in the archive and leave them in the archive. And then you'll be ready to go. Oh yeah, and then Olivia asked about, what about a Canva made graphic? And yes, we love Canva. You can make some really cool graphics. Yes, just add some alternative text, Olivia, and that will take care of that problem. Just needs to be described. Okay, great. Yes. Oh, and then your online employment applications, of course, that applies. These same rules and regulations apply as there. Awesome. Okay, cool. All right. Well, there are some Streamline specific questions. We'll follow up with you directly on those, connect you to some training resources. I don't want to take those folks who are not on Streamline with that time. But we do want to kind of take a moment now to shift gears to look into the future and give a technology preview, something that will be available to you in the coming weeks before the deadline if you are kind of struggling with documents. And what we did is we took a step back and we said, having dealt with actual ADA lawsuits against districts, having to defend them, having to talk to so many districts that are just struggling with this problem and have gone to multi-day trainings, paid for licenses, gotten grants, try to do all the right things with documents. And boy, it's just not, remediating documents is not a job I would wish upon anybody. Even my worst enemy, I just can't imagine going through that process. And so what we did is we thought long and hard. We brought experts together like Sean, and we said, how can we attack this problem a couple of ways? In order to be successful, we said it would need to be 90% cheaper than anything else out there, because even $7 a page is prohibitive. It would need to be instant, because if it's not, or near instant, within minutes, because people need to post things on a deadline and make sure that it gets turned around. And 3 is that it needs to be even better. Like, can it be even better than the remediated documents, especially for the person with a disability? Can it leverage new technology, but can it also have a fail safe so that it doesn't put the district on the line? Because right now the fail safe is, hey, if there's a problem, contact the district. and we'll get you a remediated copy within 1 or 2 business days. But in the case of the one that we're defending, it's like, even 1 to 2 business days isn't really reasonable. If it's a wildfire evacuation notice, do you have 1 to 2 days to hear back on that? So how could we take that kind of to the next level? So we sat down with Melissa Oakes, we sat down with other kind of experts in the field, and we started to explore, what would be an even better way? And what we found is there is a better way, and we were able to put this together, and it's in a limited beta right now. But what we came up with is a way, this is Mac's demo site, and we took the most unloved, nasty, difficult documents that you could ever imagine, and we put them together, and we created a system. It's called Doc Access, and it's something that you can install on any site. It's not Streamline dependent. And what it does is it's super duper cheap. So it's like six cents a page a month. And what it is it's a service that you install, and then it will intercept any PDF link on your website and give you this, what's called Doc Access. And it's an overlay that one can still download the original PDF, but the best way to remediate PDF is to not remediate it at all, and to just basically make the document accessible as a WCAG 2.1 AA website page that looks like a document. So what this does basically is, so I've clicked on a document and it's opened this up. And now this is, Melissa, I think you gave us this one. This is a document that is kind of a worst case scenario. It's scanned. It has little things typed in here. It's got an e-signature. It has a wet signature. And what we did, it even has affidavits of publication, a crazy signature there. And then it goes on to have big budgets from some other person that got added into the agenda packet. This is like classic special districts in Colorado. And then you have a state form that has all this stuff. And you're like, what the heck are you supposed to do with all this? If you wanted to sit and remediate this, Melissa, you would probably send this one off for $7 a page, right? But this would take a while to go through and address.
Yeah, this is absolutely an example of something that we would send off for professional remediation.
It's like, bye, just send this one off. It's like not worth it. $7 a page is a deal when you think about these. But we're like, what if we could use the latest and greatest technology, a combination of optical character recognition, like trained AI models on training data from before and afters, and like, how could we turn this into accessible HTML? So what Doc Access does is it provides a transcript view. So let me flip it. And now you'll see this is fully accessible text. So it will take a signature, it'll read it, and it'll translate it into text. It'll take all the documents and it will make them completely accessible. So like if I'm on a mobile device, for example, this is normally how PDFs would appear, but now they can be read easily on a mobile device. But there's like more stuff we can do with it. I can ask a question now. Like I could say, who signed the resolution? And it will answer the question and it will go ahead and pop that up. I can ask questions about budgets, like how much more did we spend on snow equipment this year versus last year? It'll highlight that area. Another thing I can do is actually, it'll create full document outlines. So I can now jump through the different section. And all one has to do is basically post an unremediated PDF, a PDF in any format on their website. And Doc Access will create the transcription and make it work. And what's cool is like it can go a step further. So if I wanted to say, I need to translate this, many of you have non-Spanish speaking or non-English speaking populations. Maybe if you need to put this all in Spanish, you can actually take your documents and provide full translations into other languages on demand. And this is a different dimension of accessibility. It's not like the standard sort of, WCAG, motor, visual, auditory, or cognitive, but it's actually like a really practical thing is that you need the ability to break down things into different languages. And so you can do that here as well. And what's cool is you can even like ask questions and get answers in that language. So I don't know if this has an address on it, but let me try Spanish. If I want to ask a question, ¿Dónde está el district? I don't know that it has an actual location. Oh, well, it says, okay, it's in Deer Creek Villas, Candido de Jefferson, Colorado. Like now imagine anybody in your community that speaks any language can now ask questions of the document and be able to, take care of that. And so that I think is really cool. We think that this is going to be a better experience for users because not only will it be translated, and let's take like a worst case scenario. So here's like a budget document that was scanned. What's really cool is it'll write the alt tags for you. So an aerial view of a wastewater facility with tanks and walkways. It'll go through and really understand, the content, take complex tables of contents, add messages. This was a real doozy. Like you have like charts. So it will go ahead and break down what's happening in the pie charts, kind of classically impossible things. Oh, look at this timeline, this pretty timeline. It's kind of hard to read. It automatically reformats it into the essential information that you would need to know if you were blind. Or like these, I mean, I can't even read this, right? Federal Emergency Administration of Public Works, these tombstones or these like plaques or whatever these are. So now these get translated as well into completely compliant content. And what we found, we have Gina, the blind activist, comes over to our office and she fires up JAWS and she jumps through these things. What she said is best is an accessible web page. Like just follow the WCAG standards. Don't make me download something. Don't make me do that. Just let me pull it up on the page. And this basically accomplishes that by taking your documents, reflowing them into completely WCAG compliant HTML. And then you don't have to do anything. It is done within a couple of minutes. Your entire document, all your documents can be taken care of and completely translated from maybe something like this where they were originally to a new format. And then we found it to be even more reliable than the transcription services, or even more reliable than the remediation. And it's ready the same day. So you can just post stuff and it's done. And then what we did is we also figured, well, we need to fall back. Like there's no technology is foolproof, right? Especially if it's doing this instantly. So we partnered with Ira, who is like, they are the most popular app for people who have disabilities. Like they're live visual interpreting. So if I go to the store, if I go to Walmart, is actually one of their partners. If I go to Walmart and I am looking for bananas that are ripe and I'm blind, I can pull up this thing and I can go look down the aisle and like hold it up and be like, hey, are these bananas ripe? And they'll be like, oh, put your hand on 2 bunches over there. Those are ripe. And I'm like, oh, great. If I get in an elevator and I'm like, I can't figure out which button is it. It doesn't have Braille. They're like, oh, you're right. It's your hand's right on it. Just push that button. It's like one of the favorite tools. So Doc Access is actually a launch partner. We have now live assistance available on any document 24/7. And so I can actually click and connect with an agent. And Melissa jumped on the phone with me. She and I helped me test it. And we did one on one of your documents, right, Melissa? And you were able to ask them questions. Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, it was actually pretty slick. You dial in and they can share screen with whatever you have that you're trying to access, and then you can ask specific questions and they can answer them for you live and in person. Pretty cool technology.
Yeah. So, and for those of you that are on Streamline, I mean, it's just incredible. Like we've been really blown away with what it's been able to do. We've tested it. Sometimes it will detect if there are things that are really complex. It will give an accessibility warning and actually prompt them to use the live assistance. But this is like, if you have something like these maps, like, oh my gosh, I mean, you can't even read it, even if you were to print it out. But it's cool. It'll even describe like different areas. It'll help describe district maps, boundary maps. For us, it's been like the most amazing, opportunity to really fix things that were not accessible before, and to really change the name of the game with formatting. If you got fillable forms and things like that, they can also be addressed. We have a healthcare district, one of our early beta customers in there, that is using this for all of their medical forms, and then they're able to perform translation. So when people come into the ER and they need to translate something, they can pull the forms up in Doc Access, and then they can change it into Estonian or whatever you might need. And then all of a sudden the form is accessible in that language and they can print it. So it's pretty amazing. I mean, in the age of new artificial intelligence models that can be trained and supervised, and having the backstop of live assistance we're confident that we can just kind of take those documents and knock them out. And so for those of you that are on Streamline, or if like this can be installed on any site, it's as easy as like installing Google Analytics would be. It's just a little script tag that goes in your header, and then it'll automatically convert all your documents. This is one that we had as an example. And so what they did is that you just sign up, it kind of scans, figures out how many documents are on your site, how many total pages. It lets you preview them all to make sure they'll all work correctly. And then what's neat is so for example, if you have Streamline, like this is the community service district website that was of interest, really needed this to get up and working. So we had, this looks like everybody's dashboard, right? It's green, 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 and then files is a bloodbath. Anybody's website look like this, where the files are all, they fixed some things, they went through the process, but a lot of them are red. And so what's pretty neat is one can go and they can go here, click, you know what, I want to go ahead and activate this on my site. It will then say installed, ready to go. And then you just go back and you refresh. And then all of your files become compliant because some of them were already accessible, but then some become accessible via doc access. So then the doc access viewer enables and it automatically will just work for those. So anyway, we know with the deadline coming up, so many of you are nervous about that, but I think what's really exciting is like, this is ultra cheap. I think it's like $6 a month if you have like 100 pages or something. Like, it's so cheap. And we just, what we want to do, we really want to see accessibility be a standard. And so I think if we can make this actually accessible and just work so that people are not suffering under the weight of document compliance, I think we can really forge a future where everything's accessible and awesome. I mean, you can ask questions about documents, all of these important things that your community has and does. They're living in these documents, and they're terrible scanned PDFs. Why not make them refreshed, queryable, translatable, etc., so that your community can really engage with them?
And also for everyone on this call, all of those steps I went through with Microsoft Word, Adobe Acrobat, you uploaded Streamline, you're like, it's still marking with errors. Like, you don't have to worry about that anymore. So you can get your time back. You can just save your documents. You can upload them to Streamline. If doc access is activated, they're accessible. So you don't have to, do any of that work. And you don't have to spend that $7 a page to have some human manually go and fix it. So it's pretty incredible. We're in the beta testing phase right now, just to kind of get through, make sure it's very easy for everyone to use. And like we mentioned, you don't have to be on Streamline to use it as well. And the other cool thing is that you don't have to use it for every single PDF. So maybe you have a limited budget. It is 6 cents a page, but you have a very limited budget for the rest of the year. You can just select a certain number of pages, maybe those really difficult budgets, those really difficult audits. You can just flip it on for those pages specifically and save yourself the money. So it's really nice and it's really flexible.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, Ann Terry trusts us to give you objective content on this. So, we never want to like resort to a sales pitch. We got a special permission today to just kind of share kind of this on the front end. If any of you would like to try or sign up with Maria, there's a link. They'll drop it in there. It's free for you to use and try. So like, you don't need like credit cards or anything like that. Just, help us test it. Help us see, can this be a wave of the future? Can we bring technology to this problem? It comes with indemnity. It comes with all of that stuff. So you're protected if you use it. And this is something that we think might really revolutionize the way that documents work. And like we said, it works on any website. You don't even have to worry about it. You just go type in you type in your website, within 5 or 10 minutes, it will have counted all the PDFs, all the pages. And what's very cool is it'll also do the documents that are linked externally. So like, it doesn't just have to be the things on your website. It can be anything, anywhere. So if you're linking, it'll take care of those too. So you have that 360-degree liability protection.
Yeah, that's a good one. So if you're linking out, for example, like to a county, resource for public health, for example, and that opens up into a PDF, it'll actually find those as well. So it's pretty cool. If you are interested in signing up for the beta program, the more the better. We do have a pretty big waiting list now, so we'll reach out when it's time. We're doing it in little cohorts and just getting people to walk through it. So we'll reach out and set up an interview session with you just to get your hands on it and get your feedback.
Yeah. And so if you have it, and then, yep, we'll get it up and running. And then it's pretty cool. Like, we don't think it'll be too long. for the rest of the content to come through. So I think it's just a matter of weeks. So you'll wait 1 to 2 weeks to get into the platform at the most, and then all of the cool stuff that comes out will be made available to the public here very soon. So anyway, we need your help. You helped us before testing the dashboards and other things, but you made it loud and clear that documents are your biggest pain point with this deadline coming up. So we'd love your help to test this out and help make things better for folks in your community. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I see, okay, 7 of you signed up. Yes. Absolutely. And like we said, it starts, the highest amount you would pay is 6 cents a page, but then it goes down. So there's like for those of you who might be concerned, it's what we try to do is just make it as cheap as possible. So if you're like, oh, I have 300 pages, it's $18 a month. And so you decide how many document pages you want to serve through this interface. And then go from there. Then it goes down to like 3 cents a month. And you can have multiple sites. You can have sites that are non-Streamline. You can have WordPress. You could have Drupal. You could have whatever. It all works. And we're really happy with the results. We're just very careful. We don't want to put anything out there unless we have 100% certainty with it. So we think we're going to be there in the next 5 to 10 days. And hopefully we'll be ready to launch more broadly. And we could use your support, your feedback, everything else. It's something we take on with great humility, and we just hope at the end of the day we make our experience better for folks with disabilities. Not to mention those poor souls that have been drinking coffee, foaming at the mouth, and remediating these giant budgets. I'm never getting close to the documents you've been dealing with. Oh my gosh, we really do need the very best and latest technology. So cool. All right. Well, if you missed that, you just go to docaccess.com and you can sign up. Annalise will put the link in there, and we'll get you up and running and into these, what we're calling the supervised self-service. So we want to watch how you use it, interact with it, make sure all those barriers are out. And then we're finalizing some other testing with disability groups that are giving us their feedback as well. All right, but we know what we've heard is it's a lot better than unremediated PDFs. And so, whatever it is that your folks need, we'll be here. Cool.
Thank you, everyone.
Right, so we'll send out that information. Thank you all for your time. I know we're right at time. And Terry, SDA Colorado, thank you all. What you're doing for your communities is incredible. So keep up the great work. We're here to help. Again, my name is Matt Clemens. This is Maria Lara. We're with Streamline, and we look forward to helping you serve your community better. Take care. Thanks.